Genres are weird. The way we classify things to fit a certain mold can be incredibly useful, but through classification can bring along with it arbitrary definitions and categories that as players we have to consider if one category outweighs the other. For example, take the game Slime Rancher. This game in a lot of ways is a first-person shooter. Your perspective is from the eyes of the protagonist, and you are using a gun-like tool for sucking up slimes and shooting them back out. It's even equipped with a water cannon to shoot at monster slimes that intend to hurt you. But even with all of these similarities to traditional first-person shooter games, that's not what we define it as. Slime Rancher is more like a farming simulator, and all of the gameplay tools and tricks that are used to farm are pulled from first-person shooter elements. This is where classifying games into certain genres can be tricky, but nevertheless useful, as we all have our own preferences. That's why we have categories in general, to be able to discern what makes one thing different from the other. The way we do that is by providing definitions for these classifications, as the definition provides the framework and criteria for the class. If I had a friend who I know is really into first-person shooter games like Call of Duty or Halo, I could recommend games like Slime Rancher because it has first-person shooter elements, but more than likely, my friend is not going to be interested. Why? Because the shooter aspect is not the primary driving force behind the gameplay. It's not the genre-defining characteristic of the game, as it is all geared towards the farming simulator. This is where we get to how genres can evolve over time. The original first-person shooter was of course nothing like Slime Rancher, with pioneers like Wolfenstein and Doom cementing the style of gameplay that the Half-Life series improved upon, giving way for other games like Call of Duty and Halo to dominate the market now. And now we also see remakes of those old FPS games incorporate the newer mechanics with games like Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. The thing is, we can see there is a connecting tissue between all of these games and how they use the same mechanics to tell different stories and provide different experiences. And now we're seeing this kind of evolution with other genres. As the title of this video suggests, I want to talk about a genre called MetroidBrainia. But first we have to talk about what a MetroidVania is. A MetroidVania is a term used to refer to games that have non-linear exploration and will gate gameplay progression through tools. The name is a combination of the two games that helped establish this category of action-adventure titles, which are Metroid and Castlevania. The connection between these two platformers is that you have a world to explore and navigate through, but certain areas would be locked and you had to use some sort of tool to access it. Once you beat the boss or find the special room, usually that tool would be given to you, which means you can get to the next area or find new secrets and then rinse and repeat. These tools essentially acted as keys, but could come in the form of a powerful rocket to break down certain barriers, or maybe a traversal tool like a grappling hook or Samus's morph ball. Popular modern Metroidvanias include games like Hollow Knight or the Ori series, where they use the same methods of gaining progression while being a platformer with non-linear exploration. Instead of your first upgrade being the missile like in Super Metroid, in Hollow Knight your first upgrade is the Vengeful Spirit, both of which are used as keys to take down barriers and explore new areas. Other games like Dead Cells take the basic mechanics of Metroidvania's progression gatekeeping, but apply it in the context of the roguelike genre, which are basically games that send you back to the beginning of the game when you die. Now, what if I told you that there are games that are considered to be Metroidvanias, but instead of getting your tools as you play the game, you're given all the tools right away? You're probably thinking, wait a minute, how is that a Metroidvania? Wouldn't you be able to get through the entire game without unlocking anything? Well, the answer to that is both yes and no. This is where the term MetroidBrainia comes into play. Instead of tools that gate your progression, what if it was your own knowledge that stopped you from exploring the game further? Instead of the game giving you a key to add to your collection, the game instead shows you different ways you can unlock doors with the same set of keys given to you at the beginning. Now you're thinking, what the hell does that even look like? And allow me to introduce to you some of my favorite games of all time. The first is Return of the Obra Dinn. This game is not as boring as it is about to be described, but in it you play as a British insurance inspector for the East India Company in 1807, who is investigating the long-lost ship called the Obra Dinn, which has returned home with everyone on the crew either dead or missing. Equipped with the ship manifest of all 60 passengers, your journal, and a special compass that takes you back to the moments of these sailors' deaths, your job is to figure out everyone's name, occupation, nationality, and their fate. It's kind of like a narrative-driven Sudoku puzzle. What makes this game interesting is the compass tool, because when you're taken to the moment of the NPC's death, it doesn't just play out like a movie. You first hear an audio recording of the death scene, along with subtitles to follow.
Captain! Open the door! Kick it in! Ah! Let's unless we break it down and take more than those shells!
You bastards may take exactly what I give you!
And then you are taken to a sort of 3D picture of the scene, giving you a chance to explore the area to find clues. Some clues are more obvious than others, like when you hear someone refer to the person as a captain, or you might pick up on someone's accent. For other NPCs, however, you might not hear them talk at all, and they might not be physically present in any scene that you come across. How close can you pay attention to the scenes is your key into exploring the next areas and finding out the truth. Out of both of the games that I will talk about, this one is the most straightforward, as your objective is pretty clearly laid out for you. And the more you connect the dots of finding out what happened on the ship, and trust me, there was quite a lot of stuff that went down, then the faster you will get to completing an incredible game. The next title I'd like to talk about is Outer Wilds. Outer Wilds is a space exploration game that takes place in this mini solar system. You play as an alien race that hangs out on an Earth-like planet called Timber Hearth, where their #1 goal is to send dudes out into space to explore. You're given your spacesuit with some cool gadgets, get into a staring contest with a statue that replays every moment since you've woken up, and set out on a spaceship made out of chewing gum and IKEA furniture. No one tells you what the point of all this is, no one tells you what to find, and no one tells you where to go. Maybe you'll go check out a nearby planet named Brittle Hollow. Once you finally figure out how to land, you learn that the planet is quite literally hollow. Also, if you're like me, you might learn that it's hollow by accidentally falling down into the massive black hole that makes up the core of the planet and be spat out on the other side of the solar system. If you're also like me, you would go check out that weird spaceship nearby. But as you try to jetpack your way there with your limited amount of oxygen, you see the sun has exploded and consumed your entire body. Then you just wake up back on Timber Hearth, just like you started. As you explore the solar system further, you learn that the sun explodes every 22 minutes, and that there was an ancient alien civilization called the Nomai that created this time loop. Here's where you actually start to learn the purpose of the game, which is to figure out how to stop the time loop and complete the original mission of the Nomai, finding the eye of the universe. None of this is told to you in any particular order, as your knowledge of what's happening comes primarily through journal entries between different Nomai scientists who endure tremendous hardship and turmoil while trying to complete their mission. Every player who has finished this game will have completely different experiences to share, and will have learned the story in an entirely different order than every other player. In these journal entries, ways of solving puzzles in the game are revealed, some more explicitly than others, and they can be used as guides to figure out what to do next, or how to tackle certain obstacles. In the entire game, you don't receive any more upgrades or new tools to explore the universe, because even if you were to get something new, then the game would reset anyway, and that tool would be taken from you. So in each loop that you play, your primary goal as a player is to continue exploring and learn more about the universe every loop. Technically, you can beat this game in the first 20 minutes if you know the specific way to get to the end, because it is only your knowledge that determines the way you can progress through the game. One of my favorite ways they do this is through quantum mechanics. The first thing you learn about quantum is that if you look away from a quantum object, then that object will appear in a random location. There are other rules to follow regarding how quantum works in this game, and you learn that by discovering quantum towers located in different parts of the solar system. These almost act like dungeons in Zelda, where instead of obtaining the double hookshot to get through the rest of the dungeon, you learn a new rule about quantum. There even is a whole moon that is quantum, that will appear in random parts of the solar system when you look away from it. And if you try landing on that object, you somehow pass right through it as if it were corporeal. As you explore and discover more about how the world works and how quantum works, then that gives you the tools and knowledge necessary to explore that area. If I'm going to be honest, I rarely play games to their completion. This is a problem of mine that I might explore later on in another video, but the point is that when I say these are games that I've played fully to the end, then you know that they are something special. I also think it's a great way to get into a subcategory of games that are not widely known about. But if you ask anyone that's played them, they will beg you to pick it up. Some other honorable mentions that fit within the MetroidBrainia genre is Her Story, a mystery that you are tasked to solve using only records of a police computer, Heaven's Vault, where you play as an archaeologist set to decipher the language of an ancient civilization, and The Witness, a puzzle logic game that probably sparked the phrase itself. There are probably going to be people that watch this and think that it's dumb to regard these games as one entire genre because it's so niche, and the fact that these games could fit in with more broad categories. But remember, categories are as good as their function and their utility. If you're like me and you play a game like Outer Wilds and are itching for a similar experience, it might be helpful to figure out what exactly it is that you like about the game and find games that provide the same feeling and experience.